Welcome to the Real Estate Nuggets podcast. I'm your host, Brian Yampolsky. I'm also a mortgage broker, and over the last 30 plus years, I've met hundreds of real estate agents, and they've all reached a certain level of success. And so in this podcast, I'm interviewing those agents to find out how they did it, what's unique about their success story, and then share it with you. So if you're in real estate, take a listen and see how many nuggets you get. Today's our very first episode, and I'm proud to introduce my friend who's a great agent, Tucker Swan. He's with the Swan team in Tempe, Arizona. Take a listen. That is Tucker Swan. Tucker and I have become friends from working together for many years now. And, you know, the idea behind this podcast is really just to share some of the really good business people that I know, share some of their ideas on what they've learned and what they would want to share with other people about the real estate business. And so, Tucker, why don't you just give a real brief introduction on who you are, where you're at, and what your background is?
Okay. Yeah. So I have been in the business for 8 years. I was given the opportunity by my mom to take over her business when she was going to go run the brokerage. So I took over her database of people and started to kind of build my own business alongside of that. And just a few months ago, she decided to come back, and now we have created the Swan team, and we're running that together. We've got 3 other agents on the team. We are figuring that all out, but it's been a good time. And
change is good.
Yeah.
But for starters, let me just say, I want to thank you for joining us on the very first podcast. I think I gave you 10 hours notice, and
maybe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for that. But first question is, how did you end up in real estate?
Yeah. I didn't ask any questions. I was working at a Starbucks, and my mom's office was right around the corner. I was getting off one day. She came in and she said, "Hey, let's have a cup of coffee." And she said, "Hey, they just asked me to become the designated broker." Our company at the time was called United Brokers Group. And she said, "Hey, do you think I should do this?" I said, "Yeah, of course. I always wondered when you'd do that job, you'd be perfect for it." She goes, "Okay, well, that leaves this business and these relationships that I've built for 20 years. And I don't want to just orphan those people. So would you take over?" And like I said, asking 0 questions, I said, "Sure." Mm-hmm. And so I got licensed, my wife got licensed, and my brother got licensed all at the same time. And I was 21 and felt like I had to prove myself to the world.
So you literally made the decision to start a real estate business with about 30 seconds of forethought.
No, zero forethought.
Okay. And when you started in the business, which was how long ago did you say? Did you say 8 years ago?
8 years, yeah, 2018.
Okay. So 8 years ago, what do you remember as being your biggest challenge when you first got into the business?
Oh, geez.
Yep.
Well,
told you I wasn't going to give you a heads up. You just got to.
I have a few thoughts. So the first thing I kind of already mentioned, I was young and I felt like I had to prove myself to people. Like, you know, I'm going on these listing appointments or I'm having buyer consultations with people who are twice my age, mm-hmm. You know, and at that point they had done more real estate transactions than I had. I'd just taken classes.
Right.
And so I felt like I needed to prove to everybody what I knew. And that ended up hindering the actual relationship building side of things. Mm-hmm. That was the first challenge I feel like that I faced. The other thing is when you get your license, they don't tell you that it's two separate jobs. You've got the job of actually helping somebody buy or sell a house, but you've also got the job of finding the person who you can help buy or sell a house. Mm-hmm. And it really is 2 different things. I didn't realize I was starting my own business. I had no entrepreneurial goals, nothing like that. And here I was cast into this very entrepreneurial business. It was inside it. This business definitely unlocked it in me, but it was a challenge at first going, okay, not only do I have to learn all this craziness.
Is it still a challenge, or would you say you figured that part out?
I mean, I'm a perfectionist. So
Mhm.
I always want to do better. But I think the challenge now is like balancing those two things when you do a lot of finding the business and then you got a lot of business to work. How do you still make the time to find the business? And I'm sure you're no stranger to that problem.
I can relate to that 100%.
A lot of us can.
That's the mortgage business. That's the title business. That's the real estate business.
Yeah.
It's a Rubik's cube for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so that was a really that is the challenge, and I think it's just that in the beginning it's the biggest challenge, and then as you go through the business, it may not be the biggest challenge, but it's still a challenge. It's one of those things we
Mm-hmm.
constantly have to work on. Here's a different question. You could wave a magic wand and change one thing about the real estate business. What would it be? What drives you crazy?
Oh, oh my gosh. The
Yep.
thing that I'm on right now is appraisals.
Mm.
And I think it's good. You have to have a neutral third party who helps make sure that nobody's like artificially inflating values, anything like that. But the the problem that I have is that if you get let's call it an inexperienced appraiser,
Mm-hmm.
they at that point in the transaction they hold the whole thing in their hands, and if they provide a poor appraisal, then your recourse, I mean, you have some options, but then it's difficult. It throws a wrench in the whole thing. And the thing that I'm on about right now is that if you have to, if you see that it's a bad appraisal and you go to request that the appraisal management company do a reconsideration of value, guess who it goes back to? It goes back to that same appraiser.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that. That's just what's been happening to me in the last few weeks. And there's probably other more important things to worry about. But when you ask the question, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
All right,
Because
that's a good answer.
well, it's hard to plan around it. That's the problem, is you have to sit down with a seller or a buyer and you have to tell them, look, this is a speed bump that we're going to encounter and it could be fine. We're going to do everything we can to try to prove to the appraiser that we think the value's here. But at the end of the day, it's one person's opinion of value, and it's just hard to maneuver around it when they come in really low.
And there's a balance between, like you were saying, when you request a reconsideration of value, you're basically asking, hey, please agree with me that you were wrong before.
Right. Nobody likes that.
Yourself. And there are some people who, if they're given the right information, they'll say, okay, I agree. But then it's, I think, human nature to kind of be defensive, and that can be the case for sure. To that is, what do you love the most about this business?
Oh man. The most. Let me give you one answer. I mean, gosh, it's going to be cliche. I'm sure you're going to hear this 1,000 times, assuming you do 1,000 episodes of this podcast, but it's just the people.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many great friends who became clients and clients who became great friends.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I'm performing a wedding ceremony for some folks that I sold a house to. And this will be the second time that's happened.
I didn't know that your real estate license authorizes you to do that.
It authorizes us to do a lot of things. No, I had to get a separate one for that. Yeah, excuse me. I have a real estate license. I can do whatever I want, officer. No, it really is. I mean, and it's not just the clients. It's people like you. I mean, I've got wonderful agent friends and lender partners and title people, and it can be very, like, the business, I feel like, can be lonely because you're responsible for your own production.
Mm-hmm.
But then those relationships that you cultivate with, like I said, business partners or other agents or clients, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing this if it was just houses,
Well, you could form an argument saying that this business is so difficult. You eat what you kill. If you don't kill anything, then you don't eat. It's very hard. It's not for everybody. So there's got to be something more to it than just making a living. And I think you made that point that, you do make some really solid relationships with business partners and clients, because those clients are going through a really, really big part of their life. And if you're a part of it, then you can form really solid relationships.
100%.
Yeah.
You always say it better than I can.
Well, I am a licensed mortgage broker, so. All right. I'm going to stop talking about me, but I had another question for you. If you think about all the deals that you've done, all the transactions that you've managed, can you think of one negotiating tactic that you've used in the past that surprised even you, like you were surprised it even worked?
Okay. Again, the first thing that comes to mind, if I'd gotten the questions yesterday, I might have been able to think of a better example.
It's more fun this way. It's totally more fun.
It is fun this way. So I do tell people, hey, the strongest negotiating tactic that you have, or the most power that you hold in a negotiation, is your ability to walk away. And so there was one transaction a year or two ago where we had already gotten a screaming deal we'd negotiated, low price and all this stuff at the very beginning. And we did the inspection. The house needed a new roof, of course, because every house needs a new roof right now. And the seller didn't want to do anything. And so, the way that it works right on paper is you submit your request and you send it over, and then the seller submits their response, and then you can either accept it or cancel it. And that's how it works. So what I did is I, of course, with the permission of my clients, I canceled it, but I sent it only to the agent. And I said, talk to your client. If I don't hear from you in 24 hours, I'm going to send this to the title company, meaning that that's at that point, we're going to get it's all done.
Right.
And I said, otherwise, I'll expect a call from you. We'll do an addendum, whatever. Anyway, we ended up getting the whole roof covered.
Oh, great. So it was because you were willing to walk away.
Yes, 100%. Because that's the thing, like, as soon as somebody goes, we have to have this house, like it has to be this one, then it shifts from like, okay, getting the best deal possible to like, you just have to close the deal, and you end up having to concede more. And sometimes that's fine. I mean, it like during the craziness in 2020 and 2021, I would kind of tell people like, look, if we get you a house, it'll be a good deal.
Yeah. But that's an interesting point you make, because if you say we have to have this house, then you'll do anything, right? I mean, roof or no new roof. But I agree with you. Walking away is a very powerful tool when you're trying to negotiate with someone, whether it's real estate or anything for that matter. Good answer. That was a good one. That was maybe your best one so far. Let's see if you can top it.
Thank you.
This is a little bit.
I want a grade after this, by the way.
I've already got your grade, but
okay.
Okay. So think about, and you may have to think about way back when you started, but over the course of your career, what stands out to you as maybe one of your biggest failures, and how did you recover from it? Please.
Okay, I have two answers for you.
Okay.
The first one is a transactional thing. That same inspection deal, if the buyer misses their timeline to submit their inspection notice, then it's assumed that the contract's moving forward, right? And I had gotten my wires crossed and thought that it was due on Sunday, and it was actually due on Saturday. And so I sent it on Sunday, and I got an email. It was Super Bowl Sunday, actually. I got an email back while we're watching the Super Bowl. Hey, actually, this was due tomorrow. Sorry, it was due yesterday. Why don't you call me tomorrow? and we'll talk about it, kind of thing.
Mm.
And I just like, my heart just sank. I was sick to my stomach. And if I was over at my parents' house, sitting on the same couch as the broker, feeling so dumb, like, how could I mess this up? Thankfully, it all worked out. They ended up giving us a credit, even though they didn't have to.
Wow.
But I've been obsessive about every inspection deadline, every deadline. As soon as the contract is finalized, I am into my calendar, and it's on my calendar. It's on my reminders. It's everywhere.
Yeah. Well,
That's the
that
first.
actually, I think the biggest learning from that is that it taught you a really good lesson on how to not screw that up again, and
Yes.
you learned it without too much damage.
Right. Yes. Thank God. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But I said I'd give you two. The second one, kind of on the business side, is, like I said, I felt like I had to really prove myself to people. And, you get in, especially, how you and I do business, all by referral. The only way to do that is by building relationships and developing trust. Well, when you spend all your time talking about what you know and not actually asking questions, getting to the root of whatever this person's problem is, or even just getting to know about them, you end up shooting yourself in the foot. So I might do a transaction with somebody who trusted me because we're old friends, and I had that opportunity, but then I didn't, I wasn't able to earn their referrals because they didn't want to send somebody else to me, because the whole experience they had with me was I'm just talking at them and trying to not really even help them solve their problems, but just tell them what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, when you have a meeting with somebody and they spend the whole time talking, whoever spends more time talking feels like the meeting went well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like all these relationships were so good because I'm talking to people all the time. And I finally realized, like, I'm looking at my business and going, man, I don't understand why these people aren't sending me their friends. Like, why aren't they referring me? And as I'm sitting there thinking about it, I realized, man, it's because I'm not actually deepening the relationship with these people. So I really had to shift my perspective, and now I try to lead with way more questions than I probably need to ask. And I will say part of that was, like, I didn't know, when somebody was going through a hard time, like in my early 20s, I didn't really know how to talk to people about that or ask hard questions or that kind of thing. Felt like didn't want to pry into people's lives. And now I just allow myself to be curious, and that has served me well.
You made me think of whatever the skill is, like whether it's playing basketball or learning to walk or learning to talk or whatever. The more you do it, the better you get. And you could say the same thing about real estate. When you start, I think if you're talking a lot and you think that it's going well, that's because that's the skill set that you have at the time. You haven't acquired as much experience or knowledge or the skills to maybe learn how to ask more questions and listen more than you're talking. And so as you go, I think the first part of our careers is about, well, I'm convinced it's about survival.
Yeah.
And if you can survive and get better every day, then you'll elevate your skills. And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, am I better now than I was last year? Yep. Am I better now than I was 2 years ago? Yep. And if you can always answer that question with, yeah, I'm better, then I think you're doing something right.
Right.
So, I guess my point is, don't beat yourself up over what you did in year 1 and 2 and 3 and so on, because those were the stepping stones to get to where you could actually get better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
Wow.
you're all right.
That was really insightful.
That's why I always call you. When I have a hard day, I call Brian.
Well,
Brian.
I'd love to talk about that some more, but this is the Tucker Swan interviews. No, I have. This is one of the last questions, and it's I think maybe the best one, because, or at least it's the one that's most interesting to me. Um, I know that you're focused on your clients. You're focused on the experience that your clients have with you. So is there something that you can share that you do specifically to create a certain experience for your clients? Like, what's one of your systems or one of your things that you focus on to create a referable experience for your clients?
Mm, that's a great question. And we're always kind of shifting the focus to one area or the other. Um, but I think that right now, like, I'm realizing that two really underrated but very referable skills are negotiation and communication. Like, of course, if you can negotiate a great deal for your client, they're going to want it. They're going to tell everybody about it. Everybody likes to brag about the great deal they got.
Right.
So that one's a little bit more obvious. But communication, I'm realizing, like, if you can set the proper expectations up front and communicate like in a timely manner throughout the process, there's so many things that we can't control that happen in the real estate business. We're not, you and I aren't miracle workers, but if when a problem comes up, if we gather as much information as quickly as possible and then call our clients as soon as possible and let them know, hey, this is what has happened. This is who I've talked to. This is what I think we're going to do. In case that doesn't work, here's another option, or this option. I'm just touching base with you to make sure that you're okay with my first plan, whatever. If you can have those conversations quickly, it's so much better. Like, when I first started, again, I would get bad news and I would wait. I'd wait to tell people because I didn't know how to break bad news to people.
Oh, that's why you waited? See, for me, it was I would wait until I could figure out the solution.
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do that too. Like, I
yeah.
was trying to fix it before,
And
before ever coming to it.
in the meantime, the client's in the dark and they don't know what's happened. And then when you finally tell them a week later, they're like, well, why didn't you tell me before?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are still certain times where, like, there's something going on behind the scenes that we can just fix and they'll never know about it, and that's fine. I don't need to brag about those things to them. But
Okay. So
when
your answer is really, it's not complicated. Like, what do you focus
oh,
on to create a great experience? It's nothing high tech or complicated. It's communication and
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 negotiation.
communicating in a timely manner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the difference between closing a transaction and closing a transaction that results in referrals is directly proportionate to the amount of communication that you have, whether it's good
I
or bad.
yeah, I totally agree.
Yep, perfect
Yeah.
answer. All
So
right, last
simple.
question. You ready for the last question?
Well, you said that was the last question, so I think we're
I
done.
believe I said one of the last questions. I can roll the tape back. Okay.
This is live. It's recording. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. Go ahead. I thought
No,
this was a practice round.
one of the last, if not the last questions is, so there's a lot of realtors watching this. There's hundreds and hundreds. There's tens of realtors watching this. Okay.
Goodness.
What's one
I
piece
bet I
of
know
advice?
him.
What's one piece of advice you would give to another agent who might be starting out and you have the chance to say, hey, here's my one piece of advice to you to help you, become a really good real estate agent. What would you tell them?
Ooh. You just got to talk to more people. Um,
Again, not complicated.
it's not complicated. I mean, if you're out, like, at the end of the day, all the different methods of finding business boil down to talking to more people.
Hmm.
Um, and that's it. I mean, if you feel like you don't have enough people in your sphere, then go find some other place to meet people and talk to people and build relationships. But it's really not that hard. You just, well, it's not easy, but it is simple. Just talk to more people. I gotta say thank you for having me. I was so honored to be called on very short notice and asked to be the first guest on your podcast. So thank you to you, and thank you to like the 5 or 6 people who dropped out before you called me.
There were only all right, Tucker Swan, the Swan team, Phoenix, Arizona, and the surrounding areas.
Yes, sir.